United States imposing sanctions on a Cambodian senator and 28 others for defrauding Americans of millions of dollars through scams promising friendship or romance. The US Treasury Department says Senator Kok An used his political connections to protect scam centers and operators. Victims were baited into online relationships and then persuaded to transfer savings in digital assets with the promise of high returns, only to have their funds stolen outright. Some operators were themselves being trafficked and forced to defraud other victims under the threat of violence. Washington also charging 2 Chinese nationals accused of managing a scam compound in Myanmar while attempting to open another center in Cambodia. Cambodia and Myanmar have emerged as hotspots for cyber scam operations. Our CNA senior correspondent Leong Wai Kit joins us live from Hanoi. Wai Kit, this stepping up of enforcement from the United States, specifically mentioning they will take out anyone, whatever the connections and wherever they might be. And these are issues that have made cracking down on scam centers in Southeast Asia particularly difficult.
Yeah, so this is obviously not a Myanmar-only problem, and it's not only the US which is being concerned about this. In fact, China, for instance, have on more than one occasion sentenced to death groups of people found guilty of running scam centers and operations inside Myanmar. And multilaterally, Myanmar has also been working with various countries, China, Thailand, Laos, always talking about ways to eradicate the scam issues. Unilaterally, Myanmar right now is likely focusing its attention on launching the Anti-Scam Center initiative that was announced last year. This is an initiative where Myanmar claimed would work with agencies like banks, sharing of intel, working with Interpol, ASEANPol, and it has also been regularly showing off efforts that it sent back large numbers of people. In fact, from October 2023, they have sent back more than 70,000 foreigners from 50 over countries. They've also claimed to seize compounds, most recently in KK Park in northern Myanmar, where they said there were 600 over buildings and they're destroyed. But that said, it's still very difficult to eradicate them altogether, because one of my high-level sources said that the recent seizing of this compound and 600 over buildings that were destroyed was mainly because the Myanmar military needed to destroy evidence in the compound that could link the junta to these scam centers. That said, there have been public efforts that Myanmar has been showing that it's trying to eradicate this scam center issue.
Wai Kit, the connection of these transnational scam centers with domestic, very high-level corruption, another reason why they are so hard to resolve. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, this past week in Southeast Asia, first Cambodia, Thailand, and then Myanmar, looking very seriously at this issue of taking out these scam centers. US-China cooperation on this, that might make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah, that's right. Now, this is very timely because, obviously you've seen my Shanghai counterpart, Tan Yuguan, before my segment, but in our earlier program on East Asia Tonight, Yuguan had talked about Mr. Wang Yi's aims in his Myanmar leg of the trip, and one of them is really to eradicate cross-border crime, and that would, of course, involve your crime syndicates. Now, China has been very decisive in its actions. Earlier today, there was also an advisory sent out to its citizens telling them to not fall prey to all these grandiose schemes that might lure you to work in illegal scam centers. And over the years, experts have pointed out how China has shifted its strategy. In the beginning, China had been using the stick approach, pressuring the junta to do more about scam centers. But of late, it has switched the carrot approach, meaning the Chinese authorities had asked the Myanmar authorities seeking access to certain places and also having combined police force operations. And I say it's a carrot approach because back then the junta needed legitimacy and credibility. So having to work with Chinese authorities on that is a carrot approach. That said, Mr. Wang Yi's trip to Myanmar will be very closely watched because I'm not only looking at the outcomes of the cross-border crimes, we're also seeing what sort of outcomes could come out of the meeting, especially with the Myanmar crisis that is still not really resolved.
Well, thanks. CNA's correspondent Leong Wai Kit, they're looking at several issues live there from Hanoi.